Have you ever sat quietly by yourself, staring at a phone that hasn't rung for days, and wondered, has my child forgotten I even exist? Maybe you used to call, used to text, but the conversations grew shorter, less frequent, and sometimes disappeared entirely. No arguments, no clear conflict, just a growing distance with no name. Never spoken aloud, but deeply felt by everyone. Many aging parents believe they're simply getting old, that their children are busy with families of their own, lives of their own. But the truth might be more painful. Sometimes it's the things we think are harmless, a reminder, a bit of pride, a few unconscious habits, that quietly push our children away, making them choose silence over conversation, distance over closeness. This video isn't about blame, it's about clarity. It's a chance for us, those who've already walked much of life's path, to look back, not to find fault, but to understand. To understand the things our children often don't dare to say. To understand why silence comes so easily. And most of all, to realize there's still time to reconnect. If we're brave enough. And if we still love enough. If you've ever felt your children slowly pulling away, if you've ever woken up feeling forgotten, please don't leave this video. Because sometimes just one small change can mend a relationship you thought was broken with nothing more than honesty and heart. 1. Not realizing you're making your children feel guilty every time they visit. Have you ever noticed that whenever your children come to visit, you might slip in a comment like, "It's been so long since I've seen you," or "No one even called me this past week"? These words might seem like gentle complaints, sometimes even laced with affection, but in reality, they can be invisible wounds, cutting deeply into your children's hearts, especially when they're already struggling to juggle work, parenting, and the overwhelming pressures of life. I once spoke with Mr. Henry, 76 years old, living in Ohio. He told me sadly, "My son used to visit every week. Now I'm lucky if he calls once a month." I just teased him a bit about it, and then he went silent. For Mr. Henry, those teasing comments were just his way of showing care, but for his son, they felt like quiet accusations, reminders that he was never doing enough. And when guilt is triggered too often, the natural reaction isn't to come closer, it's to pull away. The heartbreaking part is that the father never meant to hurt his son. He simply didn't know another way to express his sadness and longing. And this happens with so many older parents, carrying immense love in their hearts, but lacking the emotional language that fits today's world. And here's a truth that's rarely spoken. When older people express their loneliness through even gentle criticism, it can make their children feel like bad sons or daughters. That guilt becomes heavy, painful, and instinctively, they want to avoid it. So what's the solution? It's not about changing your feelings, it's about changing how you express them. You can still say you miss your children, that you long for their presence, but say it in a way that makes them feel loved, not judged. Try starting with something simple like, "I'm so happy to see you today," or "I'd love to sit down and have tea with you again sometime." These words don't stir guilt, they invite closeness. Sometimes, just a small shift in the way we speak can gently soften the distance that's quietly formed. And you might be surprised to see your children start coming back, not out of obligation, but out of love. 2. Afraid to say you feel lonely for fear of bothering your children. There is a very particular kind of loneliness. It's the kind that exists in silence. You don't cry, you don't complain. You just quietly go through each day with the sound of the TV as your companion, an old chair to lean on, and eyes that sometimes stare blankly out the window each afternoon. Mrs. Margaret, 74, from Minnesota, once shared during a group counseling session, "I miss my kids, I miss my grandkids, but I don't call them much. I'm afraid I'll be bothering them. They're busy, tired already. If I call just to say what I ate today or whether it's snowing outside, what good would that do?" Her words left everyone in the room speechless, because so many aging parents live exactly like that. Not because they don't need connection, but because they're too afraid of becoming a burden. They cut back on their own emotional needs, thinking that staying silent is a form of love. But the sad truth is, silence over time does not bring peace. It only deepens the distance. And children, if not perceptive enough, may misunderstand that silence as everything must be okay. Then the whirlwind of daily life continues, and the words that need to be said remain unsaid. So, how do you break that silence while keeping things gentle and respectful? A simple way: don't start a call with, "I don't really have anything to say, just calling." Instead, try, "It's cold today and I thought of you. I wonder if you're staying warm." Or, "I suddenly remembered the soup we had together the other day." Small messages like that don't bother. They warm the heart. Loneliness is something no one wants, especially after a lifetime spent loving others. But you deserve to be cared for, to be loved, to be called by name with affection, even if it's just during a 3-minute phone call. Don't be afraid to bother your children with love. What hurts them the most is realizing too late that they missed the emotions you kept buried too deep. 3. Feeling hurt but keeping it inside, not knowing who to share it with. There are wounds that leave no marks on the skin, but they throb quietly every night after the lights go out. It's the feeling of being hurt by the very people you love most, yet not being able or daring to speak up. Out of fear of further damaging an already fragile relationship, out of fear of being labeled too sensitive or told, "You're old now, you get upset too easily." Mr. Richard, 76, from California, once wrote in a letter to himself, "That time my daughter snapped at me, saying, 'Dad, you keep repeating the same old story. Everyone knows it already.' I stayed silent. Not because I had nothing more to say, but because I knew if I reacted, she'd just get more annoyed. But that whole night, I couldn't sleep. Her words hurt more than I expected." There are thousands of Mr. Richards out there. Older people feel deeply, but they've learned to hide their emotions well. They don't shout out when they're sad. They just give a forced smile, change the subject, or quietly tell themselves, "Let it go. I'm old now. It's not worth it." But their hearts still bleed, silently. And the danger is, wounds that are suppressed for too long can cause older adults to withdraw, to become increasingly quiet, and eventually distant. This isn't old people being cranky. It's the result of not having a safe space to open up. So if you are carrying a hidden hurt in your heart, please remember, you have the right to be sad. You have the right to feel hurt. And above all, you have the right to be listened to, with kindness and without judgment. Reach out to a friend, a trusted loved one, or a healing space, like the one you're in right now, reading these words. And if you are a child or grandchild, please pay attention. Sometimes a casual, "You're still thinking about that?" can hurt your parent or grandparent for weeks. And a simple hug or a quiet, "I'm sorry for the way I spoke the other day," can heal a silent wound that they would never bring up on their own. Some kinds of pain don't need to be dissected. They just need to be acknowledged. And sometimes all it takes is one person willing to listen to soothe an aching heart. Or remembering a short, distant call from your child and feeling shut out of their life. There's a particular kind of sadness that only parents truly understand. It's when you wait for a phone call only to receive a few minutes of awkward, forced conversation, ending with, "I'll call you back later." And that later stretches on endlessly, never arriving. Carol, 74, lives alone in Montana. She recalls the last time her son called. He asked a few polite questions, then said, "Mom, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later." I understood, everyone's busy, but after that call came 3 weeks of silence. She doesn't blame her son, but every time she looks at her phone and sees the same old numbers in her call history, her heart sinks a little. It's not that she needs long chats. What she longs for is simply to feel like she's still a part of her child's life. As you grow older, you don't expect to be cared for the way you once cared for your children, but you still crave connection, to be heard, to be remembered. A brief, cold, emotionless call can leave a parent feeling like they've been shut out of their child's world. And the painful truth is they won't say it. They'll smile, hang up, then sigh quietly in an empty room. If you're a son or daughter, please understand, sometimes just a phone call that lasts more than 5 minutes, with genuine interest, some laughter, real emotion is enough to warm your parents' heart for an entire week. They don't ask for much. They just want to feel like they still matter in your life. And if you're someone who feels left behind, please don't keep it hidden. Send your child a simple message. I miss you. If you have time, I'd love to hear your voice. Sometimes children are just tired, caught up in the whirlwind of life. But a gentle, loving reminder may be all it takes to rekindle the connection. Because a phone call might not be long, but the feeling of being heard, being loved, can warm your heart through an entire winter. 5. Feeling like you've become invisible in your own child's home. There's a kind of pain that needs no words. It's when you're sitting in your child's living room, watching your daughter-in-law set the table, your son make big and small decisions, your grandchildren laughing and playing, and not one person asks you a thing. You're there, yet somehow no longer truly part of the home. Robert, 76, moved from Ohio to live with his son's family in California after his wife passed away. At first, he thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to be close to his children and grandchildren, to share dinners, daily joys, and simple moments. But just a few weeks in, he began to notice something. No one really needed his opinion anymore. His daughter-in-law rearranged his room without asking. His son bought a new car, chose a school for the kids, without a word to him. I don't blame them, Robert said. I just feel like I've become transparent, like a shadow drifting through their lives, leaving no trace. The truth is, most aging parents don't want to control or interfere with their children's lives. They simply want to be acknowledged as someone who's still living, still important. A simple question like, "What do you think, Dad?" or "Does this seem right to you, Mom?" can light up their heart like sunshine after a storm. But when everything is decided without them, they begin to wonder, am I just a guest here? If you are a son or daughter, remember, inviting your parent to live with you is not just offering them a roof over their head. You're inviting them into an emotional space, full of memories, hopes, and expectations. And in that space, all they ask for is a small place, to be heard, to be consulted, to be reminded that they're still present, still a part of the family. If you are a parent living in that silence, don't be afraid to speak up. Gently share, I don't need to make the decision, but I'd be happy to be part of the conversation. Sometimes your children don't intentionally leave you out. The fast pace of life simply makes them forget that you're still sitting there, still waiting for a glance, a question, a connection. Because the feeling of being left on the sidelines doesn't come from not being allowed to speak. It comes from never being invited to. 6. No one asks anymore. Do you still have dreams, Mom/Dad? At some point in life, people stop asking you about your dreams. No one wonders what you're learning, what new things you want to try, or what you're looking forward to in the coming year. It's as if once you pass the age of 70, the world assumes you've finished all your journeys, and now all that's left is to sit and wait. Margaret, 73, was a nurse for 40 years. She always had a simple dream: to learn how to paint. She shared that throughout her youth, she cared for her husband, her children, and her patients. And when she finally retired, she had time for herself at last. But what made her heart sink wasn't that she hadn't learned to paint. It was that no one ever asked. My daughter calls every week, she said, but only to ask if I'm well or if I've eaten. Not once has she asked, Mom, is there anything you still want to do just for yourself? That's a quiet sadness, when no one sees the vibrant part of you anymore. When everyone assumes your life now is just about tending to plants, watching TV, and taking medication, without realizing there are still dreams breathing inside your heart. But the truth is, older people still have dreams. Some want to learn how to dance. Some want to travel alone for the first time. Some simply want to sit down and write their life story. These aren't grand dreams, but they're enough to make a heart beat with joy every morning. If you're a child, try asking, is there anything you still wish to do, Mom/Dad? That one question might open up an entire world. You might even be the one to help them make it happen, or simply the first person who makes them feel it's okay to dream again. And if you are the one who's been silent for too long, remind yourself, no one gets to put an age limit on a dream. Write it down, speak it aloud. Begin again, because you're not just living, you still have the right to dream. 7. Realizing that no one asks anymore, how have you been feeling, mom/dad? Sometimes, the saddest thing isn't being forgotten, it's being cared for. But only physically. People ask if you've eaten, if you've taken your medication, if you slept well, but they forget the most important question, how have you been feeling lately, mom/dad? Raymond, 76, lives with his son and his son's small family. Every day, his needs are well taken care of. Meals on time, medications prepared. His daughter-in-law even cleans his room and does his laundry. But in his private room, Raymond often stares out the window, feeling empty. Everyone is kind, he shared, but no one asks what I'm thinking or how I feel. I don't need a fancy meal as much as I need an honest conversation. You see, aging parents are not just bodies in need of care. They are souls that have lived deeply, loved fiercely, hurt profoundly, and hoped endlessly. But as they grow older, those emotions are often made invisible. People assume, they're old now, better not bother them. They probably don't think about much anymore. But the truth is, older people still feel loneliness, worry, pain, gratitude, and joy, just like anyone else. They too need someone to ask sincerely, how have you been feeling lately? Not to fix it, but simply to listen. So if you're a son or daughter, try walking into your parents' room one afternoon. Sit down, put the phone away, and without rushing, ask, how have you been feeling these days? You might be surprised to find they still have so much to say, just waiting for someone to truly listen. And if you're the one waiting for that question, don't be afraid to speak up. Write a letter, send a message, or simply hold someone's hand and say, I'm feeling a little down today. I just want to hear your voice. Sometimes, we don't need solutions, we just need someone to truly see us. 8. Too afraid to admit that when they see their children exhausted, parents feel like a burden. Harold, a 79-year-old father living in the peaceful countryside of New Hampshire, once shared what troubled him most in the later years of his life. It wasn't illness, it wasn't the fear of death. It was the look in his son's eyes every time he came to visit on weekends. He tries to smile, but I can see the fatigue. Every sigh, every hurried glance. I know he loves me, but deep down, I wonder if I'm disrupting his life. It's a feeling many elderly parents quietly carry, a nameless sorrow. They don't say it, not wanting their children to feel guilty, but inside, every glance, every weary step from their child stirs a silent ache. So they do everything themselves, even with trembling hands. They cook their own meals. Even when tired, they push themselves to shop and do laundry. Even through pain, they avoid asking for help. Not because they don't need it, but because they're afraid of becoming a burden. What hurts older people the most is not loneliness, it's the feeling that they're bothering the ones they love most. But the truth is, a hand to hold, a timely question, a simple sentence like, I want to be here with you, not out of duty, but out of love, can wipe away all that quiet torment. If you're a child watching this video, remember, you don't have to do anything grand to make your parents happy. Just help them see they still matter, that you value their presence in your life. And if you are the parent holding this pain, please don't keep it hidden in silence. Speak up. Let your children know that you too need to be loved, just as you once loved them. You may have come to realize that the things aging parents don't say aren't because they don't feel them, but because they love their children so deeply, they're willing to carry all the pain alone. Behind a forced smile lies a sadness never spoken aloud. Behind the words, I'm fine, don't worry, are sleepless nights and silent tears in a quiet, empty room. And if you are a father, a mother, a grandfather, or a grandmother, please understand, you don't have to always be strong. You don't need to hide everything just to be less of a burden. You deserve to be loved, to be asked about, to be listened to, not because of what you've sacrificed, but because of who you are. And if you are a child, Please don't wait until there's no more time left to express your love. Don't wait until the day you're standing quietly before a photo of your parents to start regretting not calling more often, not asking how they were, not spending enough time with them when they were still here. We didn't create this video to make anyone feel guilty, but to bring light to a truth that too many older adults live with every single day in silence. And so that you, whether a parent or a child, realize that one phone call, one heartfelt question, one embrace can ease a loneliness no medicine can cure. Do you see yourself in these stories? Have you ever held back things you wished you'd said? Please leave a comment below, not for us, but for yourself, and for someone else to hear your story. If this video touched your heart, please hit like and share it with someone you care about. Perhaps someone out there needs a gentle reminder that they are still deeply important and deeply valued in this life. And don't forget to subscribe to Senior Life 365 to continue joining us for meaningful, human, and inspiring stories made especially for the journey of living with purpose in the later years. We are here to listen, to walk with you, and to remind you, you are not alone.